before I did this video, I put together a little teaser trailer just to get a general discussion going and get people's mindsets flowing. I put one on Facebook and I put one on my YouTube channel, which is the video just before this one. I decided that, you know what, let me put together this trailer and get people talking to see what their general standpoint is. And it's obviously going to be 50-50 split. Some people say that, oh yeah, Aizen wins because his ability is just hacked. And then some people even went in depth and said that, oh yeah, the reason that Aizen would win would be because the way that Genjutsu works is by it sending chakra to the brain. And that's basically how the manipulation process of Genjutsu works. That it basically disrupts your chakra flow, which is why tailed beasts, basically people, Jinchuriki, are able to negate Genjutsu because they have the tailed beast that disrupts the chakra flow to restore it back to normal, which is all true and it makes sense. And then they said the reason that Aizen would win is because Aizen's ability doesn't just affect, you know, that those that have chakra, it affects both the living and the dead. Because obviously Aizen being a Shinigami himself, he's obviously died beforehand. So with that being said, the winner would be Aizen. But you know I don't do things like that. And in all honesty, I don't think it's as simple as that, which is why I do things this way. But before I continue, I've gained a lot of subscribers over the past couple of days, and a lot of you don't know me. For my new subscribers who don't know me, my name is Shimigami X, aka your Captain X. I'm your leader of Squad X, your president of Squad 00, and I'm here today to give you my second anime crossover battle. The first anime crossover battle I did was Itachi versus Sosuke Aizen, and the winner was Sosuke Aizen. But that is for a different video. That's a video that you can go and watch another time. But today we're going to be talking about Madara Uchiha versus Mr. Sosuke Aizen. This battle, in my opinion, is going to be a lot more interesting than Itachi versus Madara Uchiha. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into things and talk about it more in depth right after that intro. Alright guys, now I think before we go into this discussion, I think that it's imperative that we set some ground rules. And now those ground rules are this. The ground rules are very, very simple. I'm going to put it this way. I always make, when I do crossover battles, I put them in a neutral universe. And the neutral universe being Coliseum X, which is obviously something that I've made up. But the whole basis of that is the fact that if you have chakra versus spiritual pressure, things like spiritual pressure will work like neutrally, will affect you neutrally, just how chakra would affect you. So for example, if an ability only works by by means of chakra, it will still affect that being in the same sense. Because I look at it this way: when you look at spiritual pressure, chakra, ki, all those kind of things, they are basically broken down into energy and life force. That's basically what it breaks down into. So you can basically conjure up all into life force, so it will still take effect, and it works like that. Now, the way I'm going to do this discussion, I'm going to analyze, you know, the defense of both combatants, the offense of both combatants, the abilities, and also take into account their personalities and the way that they are written. Now, before I dive into things, let's start off with the basis of attack. Okay. Now, a lot of people are saying that, oh, Aizen probably deal more devastating attacks than Madara or vice versa. I'm going to put that to rest right now. Madara has better destructive capacity than Sosuke Aizen. I'm going to explain to you why. When Sosuke Aizen, in his most powerful form, you know, basically butterfly mode Aizen, fought against Ichigo, it was stated in both the anime and manga that it wasn't Sosuke Aizen who was able to destroy the mountain that was behind them in the scenery. It was in fact Ichigo's Zanpakuto, and bear in mind that that was one mountain. Alright, and we're not even completely sure of a case of whether it was a mountain, but for argument's sake, we can say that it was a mountain. Alright, so that was Kurosaki Ichigo that was able to basically cause that to be leveled. Now, when you have Madara Uchiha, who used the perfect Susanoo before he even attained his Sage of Six Paths mode, he was able to use the perfect Susanoo and obliterate several mountains in a single sword swing. So, Madara Uchiha has been able to attain a feat in terms of destructive capacity that Sosuke Aizen hasn't, and that is a fact. There's no two ways about that. You can't dispute that, you can't deny it, and you can't even argue it. Madara Uchiha has a better destructive capacity than Sosuke Aizen. Now, so in terms of destructive capacity, that point goes to Madara Uchiha. Now, bear in mind that destructive capacity is very different than attack. attack isn't always based on destructive capacity, because you can attack somebody in many different ways. Just because your attack isn't exactly like planet busting or city busting, that doesn't mean that your attack isn't lethal in its own sense. And a perfect example in Bleach is, take for example Soiphone. So Soiphone's Shikai doesn't have much destructive capacity, but it's the precision of the attack and the fact that if it hits you twice in the same spot is what ultimately kills you. So now that we've explained that, it's not so much about destructive capacity that determines somebody's attack. But so in terms of destructive capacity, that point goes to Madara Uchiha. Now let's move on to the story of defense. Madara Uchiha's ultimate defense is obviously his perfect Susanoo. Now, it's never exactly stated as to what extent the perfect Susanoo can take damage. Because the damage that we've seen dealt to Susanoo has been nothing of the likes of the damage that we've seen in Bleach. And there's quite evidently there's no backbone to go off of that. The only thing that I can slightly relate to is this, and this is a far cry from it, so I'm not even going to completely include this, but this is just something so you guys can understand of how in depth I've thought about this discussion. Alright, when Sasuke Uchiha first activated his Susanoo, and then bear in mind this is a very incomplete Susanoo, it was just about rib cages and, you know, an arm and maybe a few muscles. The Raikage, the Raikage was about to drop kick, about to do like basically a drop kick to Sasuke, but that drop kick would have actually killed him. That's why Sasuke put the Amaterasu flames up, because even though he had the Susanoo protecting him, it would have broken through that and it would have killed him. Now bear in mind that's a chakra based physical attack. So it's basically just a physical attack infused with chakra. So that's what a base form Susanoo, like, you know, the very basic form of it, can defend you against. Now, the perfect Susanoo is something on a completely different level, but there's one thing I have noticed about the Susanoo, is that its destructive capabilities outmatch that of its defensive capabilities. And the reason I'm going to say that is this: if you take for example both Itachi and Sasuke, those are the only two Susanoos that we've seen take, you know, like some damage. Itachi summoned his Susanoo like in complete form, and then it was struck down by lightning, and then that actually destroyed it, and then he reformed it. And then obviously causing Itachi to die. We've seen the episode and we know how that works. Now, when it comes to Sasuke, we've seen that what would have killed him in terms of the Raikage with, like, you know, an incomplete Susanoo. Now, when you bear that in mind of like the damage that a Susanoo can do, it's clear to see that, it's evident to see that its destructive capabilities are stronger than its defensive capabilities. Now, there's something I'm going to say is that I would say that I'm going to give the points of defense to Aizen, and the reason I'm going to do that is that when Ichigo swung his sword at him that had the destructive capacity to obliterate, you know, landscape in the distance, there's something you need to bear in mind of the way that physics work. I'm not going to go way too scientific in this, because at the end of the day it is an anime discussion, and anime isn't exactly based on, you know, complete physics, but I'm going to put some kind of logic into this. Okay. When you have two forces colliding, and one force is like standing still and static, the defending force, the offensive force naturally exerts all of the power, the brunt of the force on the object that it's made contact with, and then anything else that happens around that, or like anything that happens in reaction to that, is basically reduced damage, if that makes sense. Like for example, when Madara Uchiha in Perfect Susanoo swung his sword, basically he swung it towards the mountains, and it was able to cut them in half. The mountains took the brunt of the force, and that's why the damage was directly done to them. Now, in the case of Kurosaki, Ichigo, and Aizen, when they clashed, the damage that was done was a result of an impact. Basically, the mountains being destroyed were basically a third-party reaction, if that makes sense. Not a third-party reaction, were a result of a reaction, a chain reaction. Do you understand my point? So that means that Aizen is able to withstand, you know, attacks that are able to bust mountains. So in this case, the attacking force of Perfect Susanoo, it's like he was able to attack that and deflect it, even to the extent where he thought that that was his attack. So it seems that when it comes to things that are mountain busting, it seems that Sasuke Aizen can deal with those attacks, especially in terms of his Zanpakuto and being able to deflect it that way. Okay, but that doesn't then mean that an impact like that on his actual body wouldn't do significant damage. That just means that he's able to deal with, you know, that level of power when it comes to destructive capacity. So in terms of defense, I'm going to give that point to Sasuke Aizen. Alright, now I think one of the biggest discussions that I come across a lot when people even talk about any Uchiha and versus Sasuke Aizen, but in particular Madara, they go on about Genjutsu versus Kyoka Suigetsu. Now, A lot of people try to break it down as like, oh yeah, it's just a case of whoever uses it first. Now, there is the issue, there is the complication which I've stated before about, you know, like Genjutsu working by a chakra network, and if you don't have a chakra network, which Bleach characters don't, then it wouldn't work against them, where Sosuke Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu, on the other hand, affects all things living and dead. Now, but I told you, in Colosseum X, those kind of things, they're neutral. So let's put it this way. The thing about Sosuke Aizen and Madara Uchiha that a lot of people that do these anime discussions fail to realize is this, is that they forget to factor in the personalities of both Sosuke Aizen and Madara Uchiha. They both have one thing in common, and this is going to be the deciding factor and the turning point of this battle, and that similarity is this. When Sosuke Aizen has achieved, like, you know, like his Hogyoku power, he becomes cocky to the point where he won't even use abilities like Kyoka Suigetsu because he deems his opponent to be unworthy until they prove themselves otherwise. So when he attains this level of power, he never used Kyoka Suigetsu after that. Do you see my point? Like when he fought against Kisuke, Ishin and Yoruichi, he didn't use Kyoka Suigetsu because he felt like it wasn't necessary because he attained a new level of power compared to everybody else. So in Butterfly Mode Aizen, he didn't use Kyoka Suigetsu. It's unlikely that he would use it in a fight against Madara because now that he's attained this power, he deems his opponent unworthy and he believes that he's higher than everybody else. And it's the same thing with Madara Uchiha. And the reason I say that is this. Is when Madara Uchiha first gained Hashirama cells, you know, in this war arc, and it happened in the latest episode, he said that he's beginning to fight less gracefully because he doesn't, you know, he doesn't care. He's not using all of his techniques. And so that's where their personalities are similar. So, you can argue for the simple fact that if the battle was to occur between these two characters, Sosuke Aizen wouldn't use Kyoka Suigetsu straight away. Because the point in time I'm making these two battles when they're at their strongest. So this is Butterfly Mode Aizen, when he's at his pinnacle and he's most powerful, versus Sage Mode Madara, when he's at his pinnacle and most powerful. So when you bear that in mind, neither character would use Genjutsu or Kyoka Suigetsu right off the bat. They would use other abilities and they would basically almost test their opponent to see if they're actually even worthy of a challenge. That's the way that things would go. Okay, so the way I envision the battle going is very similar to this. Is that, let's move on to the topic of speed. There is no arguing that Sosuke Aizen is faster than Madara Uchiha. Now, let's stop here. A lot of you are going to be like, well, that doesn't matter because Madara Uchiha has the Sharingan, and the Sharingan can, you know, perceive movement so you'll be able to react to it. Not entirely true. But stay with me here. I'm going to refer to a point in the very beginning of the Naruto series against Sasuke Uchiha and Rock Lee. Now bear in mind, I'm not taking this as the be-all and end-all because we need to bear in mind the fact as well that Madara Uchiha has a fully developed Rinnegan, whereas the point in time I'm comparing it to is Sasuke Uchiha when he had a one-tomo Sharingan. So bear in mind that I am taking this into account, but there's a logic behind what was said in this episode and the manga chapter where it applies here. Okay, and then that point is this: when Rock Lee fought Sasuke Uchiha was able to perceive Rock Lee's movements, to be able to predict what he was going to do next, but Rock Lee still beat him and kicked his ass. Now why? Rock Lee explained to Sasuke, just because the fact that your Sharingan allows you to perceive my movements, that doesn't mean that your body is fast enough to be able to react to them. And in the anime, he said that doesn't mean that you're able to do anything about it. So in fact, in short is this: the Sharingan, yes, it will allow you to perceive somebody's movements, be able to dissect their patterns, and be able to predict what they're going to do next, in terms of, like, you know, their body movement, because it dissects the way that muscles work. That is a fact, and that's stated in the Naruto series. But it's also a fact that just because you're able to perceive something, that doesn't mean that you are fast enough to react to it. Now, I'm going to go back to Madara, I'm going to give him some credit here. Madara would be able to react to Sosuke Aizen's attacks, and the reason I say that is this: although the fact is clear that Sosuke Aizen is faster than Madara Uchiha, there's no denying that. There's something you need to bear in mind. There's twice in this war arc, and in this war arc, that Madara Uchiha has dodged point-blank attacks where opponents have teleported him to attack him instantaneously. And there's two examples. One is when Tobirama tried to do it after he was about to, where Sasuke was stabbed in that same episode. Tobirama tried to do that to Madara Uchiha. Madara Uchiha reacted, turned around, and defeated Tobirama. That is a fact. Also, he done it against Minato, where Minato tried to teleport in front of him and use a Rasengan at point-blank range. He took Minato's other arm. So not only is he able to react to you know, instantaneous speeds, he's able to, you know, react. He's able to react and counter them at the same time. So in terms of that, Sosuke Aizen being able to speed blitz Madara is somewhat negated in that sense. So yes, although Sasuke Aizen gains the point in speed, its application would somewhat be nullified for the simple fact that, you know, Madara is able to react to these things, especially with the fact that now the Madara Uchiha I'm talking about has both Rinnegan, so he's at his most powerful. Okay, now that we've covered the points of attack, which is basically destructive capacity, we've covered the points of defensive capabilities, and like endurance. We also need to cover the point. We covered the point of speed. Now let's cover the point of, like, you know, abilities. Now, both of these characters are immortal in their universes. So, for example, regular attacks won't kill them. For example, if you blow a hole through Aizen's chest, the Hogyoku will make him regenerate and probably come back even slightly stronger, which is what we've seen in the Bleach verse. And when it comes to the case of Madara Uchiha, you could even cut him in half. He will regenerate. It won't kill him. Both of these characters are immortal, and they won't be killed by regular methods, by, you know, by stabbing them through the heart or cutting them in half. You have to be like completely crush them / obliterate them, like basically destroy all of their organs at once, so it can no longer function. That's the way it works. So with that beared in mind, a hand-to-hand battle, even though Sasuke Aizen is faster than Madara Uchiha. Okay, sorry about the jump cut, guys. My camera ran out of memory, so I had to take some stuff off it, and so I can free up space for the camera to carry on with this video. Now, because I took jump cut, it kind of made me go off track of what my topic was and my general flow. But from the last thing I was saying in a general summary was that although Sasuke Aizen has better speed than Madara will still be able to react and counter against it. So the fact that Sasuke Aizen gains a point in speed is somewhat negated, if that makes sense. Just for the simple fact that Madara Uchiha has been shown to accomplish feats in terms of speed that Sasuke Aizen hasn't been able to do. For example, being able to react to point-blank instantaneous attacks from both front and behind. And that would be because of his own general reactions and from the abilities of the Rinnegan. Now, let's move on. Okay, now my general flow of this was to now move on into what would happen in a battle between Genjutsu versus Kyoka Suigetsu. I said in the very beginning of this video that, you know, a lot of people said Sasuke Aizen would win because the way that Genjutsu works is that it sends, if I was an Uchiha, it'd be me sending chakra through my eyes into your eyes that manipulates your brain into being able to perceive whatever I want you to perceive, in a sense trapping you and paralyzing you for me to then be able to do whatever I want to you. Now, then you have Kyoka Suigetsu, where all you have to do is look at Sasuke Aizen's Kenton Simon release, which essentially is looking at his sword. Once you do that, you're entrapped in complete hypnosis that manipulates all 5 senses. Okay. So in terms of effectiveness, they are both very similar in the sense that, okay, they both do manipulate all 5 senses to an extent, but Kyoka Suigetsu is actually a more potent hypnosis ability for the simple fact that it can't be disrupted, if that makes sense. Because while you're in Genjutsu, in the Naruto universe, you can be put under a Genjutsu while you're in Genjutsu, which is why Sasuke Uchiha and Itachi Uchiha was able to have a Genjutsu battle, you know, in and amongst themselves, and also why when they were facing off against Kabuto, they were also able to put each other under a Genjutsu to get out of a Genjutsu. You can be put into a Genjutsu and taken out of a Genjutsu while being in a Genjutsu, but while you're in Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis, you can't be put under, you know, another hypnosis spell. It is complete hypnosis. It's like it overrides everything. Now, to a degree, and the reason I say to a degree is this, because when Sasuke Aizen fought Shinji, yes, Shinji was under the effects of Kyoka Suigetsu the entire time, but Shinji was able to manipulate Aizen's senses to be able to land a hit on him. So a lot of people could argue for the fact that, okay, if they both use Genjutsu and Kyoka Suigetsu, wouldn't it then end up being a draw? No. And the reason I say that is this, is because you need to bear in mind the fact of the character personalities. I would say, no, it's not even I would say, this is actually a general fact, that based upon the characterization of Sasuke Aizen when he obtained his maximum power in the Hogyoku, with the Hogyoku at the time, he was very, very cocky. To the extent where he wouldn't use all of his abilities straight away. He'd keep testing you, and basically he looked at you as beneath him. And Madara Uchiha did the same thing. But with Madara Uchiha, when he sees that a method isn't working, he's very quickly to resort to another method. So Sasuke Aizen, but Madara Uchiha is even more quick to change up his strategies, if that makes sense. And the reason I say that is this, is because when Madara Uchiha used the perfect Susanoo against the 5 Kage, he said, you know what, I'm not going to use the perfect Susanoo again, because the way he uses the perfect Susanoo is that once you see this being, the perfect Susanoo, this Titan, you're supposed to have been dead. So the fact that for me to use it again is an embarrassment to my name. And that was actually said in the episode and also in the manga chapter. Go ahead and read it. It's not, that wasn't exact word for word, but the message was more or less the same. Now let's move on. With that bared in mind, Madara Uchiha is more prone to change his battle tactics on a whim rather than Sasuke Aizen. Although Sasuke Aizen will change his battle tactics on a whim. Now, where I'm going with this is that Madara Uchiha would obviously be doing everything that he can to defeat Sasuke Aizen and vice versa, but Madara Uchiha would be most likely activate his Genjutsu first to entrap, ensnare, and paralyze Sasuke Aizen, and it would work. Because the way Genjutsu works, it would work. It'd throw off Aizen's 5 senses and he'd be lying there, ready to be killed by Madara. Madara Uchiha, how can I put this? He's a very swift killer. He doesn't kill his opponents in a dishonorable way. He doesn't do any like a Kamiga kill style where he'll dismantle your body parts and leave you hanging somewhere as basically as an example. He doesn't do that, and neither does Sasuke Aizen. Both of them are very clean killers. They'll kill you by either slitting your throat, stabbing you through the heart, which is what Madara Uchiha did to Sasuke. He kills you in a very clean and efficient way. Now, with that bared in mind, you need to bear in mind the fact that both of these characters are immortal, and in a battle, they wouldn't know that each other is immortal unless they were to state otherwise, but they'd have no reason to. Because it's just they're battling to the death, is simply what it is. They would have no reason to state that I'm immortal, blah blah blah. But even if they did, it wouldn't change the fact that the methods that they would go about to try and kill each other would all be the same, because their powers are what their powers are. Their powers don't change just from the simple fact of you saying, "Oh, I'm immortal." But anyways, I'm digressing here. Let's move on. Madara Uchiha would most likely use his Genjutsu first, ensnaring and paralyzing Sasuke Aizen, leaving him there on the ground ready to be killed. Madara Uchiha would most likely stab him through the heart, very much like what he did to Sasuke, and then literally walk away and then deactivate his Genjutsu, leaving Sasuke Aizen to bleed out there and die there, not knowing that he's immortal. Sasuke Aizen being immortal is obviously going to get back up. Madara Uchiha won't be able to sense spiritual pressure, just same way that Sasuke Aizen can't sense chakra. Because although I said that in the beginning, this is a neutral universe, that the effects of their powers will work on them, but in terms of like sensing abilities, it's not going to work because they're two completely different networks of power. That's fair, isn't it? Now, we're going to move on. So Madara Uchiha walks away in a very similar fashion to what he does. Probably says something like, blah blah, you never had the ability to defeat the Uchiha, whatever you'd say. You know how Madara Uchiha is. Walks away. Sasuke Aizen gets up and basically essentially cuts him in half and cuts Madara Uchiha in half, leaving him on the floor, saying that something cocky along the lines of, "Oh, you should never turn your back on your opponent. Like, what'd you take me for?" Something like that. You know what Aizen's like. Then give on some full lecture and then go to deliver a finishing blow. Now, here's the one thing that it goes in Madara's favor, which is going to turn this battle around. Now, stay with me now. It's his Limbo clones. Because when Madara Uchiha has his 2 Rinnegan activated, he has 4 Limbo clones. Now, as Sasuke Aizen is going to deliver the finishing blow to Madara, bearing in mind that Madara is immortal, so even if Sasuke Aizen was to cut him in half from the heart downwards, yeah, he'll bleed and whatnot, and he'll be severely damaged, but it won't kill him. To kill Madara Uchiha, you essentially got to obliterate his entire body. Very similar to Sasuke Aizen. You can't kill them by normal slashes and normal cuts. So, Sasuke Uchiha cut Madara Uchiha in half, and he was fine. Sasuke Aizen had a hole blown through this entire part of his chest by Gin Ichimaru, and he was fine. Because of the Hogyoku. You can't kill them by normal means. You have to completely obliterate their entire body, every single organ, or if not, crush them completely. Now, moving on. So, Sasuke Aizen will go to deliver the finishing blow probably via a Kido method or via another sword attack, but it'd be stopped by one of the Limbo clones. Madara Uchiha will probably get back up, and it's fine, but Sasuke Aizen can't see, sense, or anticipate the attacks of these 4 Limbo clones, because although how can I put this? Although they can be defeated, it's hard to attack and defend against something, but you can't see where it's coming from, you can't sense where it's coming from, you just know that it's coming at you. The only reason that Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto in the Naruto universe was able to deal with the Limbo clones was because they shared the same power as Madara Uchiha. Sosuke Aizen doesn't. The only similarities they have are in terms of their characterization and in terms of like, you know, the hypnosis, Kyoka, Suigetsu, and Genjutsu. Now when we bear that in mind, the turning factor in this battle is, for the simple fact, the Limbo clones, because even if Sosuke Aizen decided that, okay, now I've deemed you a worthy opponent, that you keep getting back up after my slashes, that I'm going to activate my Kyoka Suigetsu, it would affect the main body and probably the Limbo clone. So Madara Uchiha's 5 senses are messed up. Aizen could finish him, right? Oh no, you have 3 more Limbo clones, buddy. The thing about the Uchihas are they're very perceptive in terms of battle. So the first Limbo clone would have noticed that, oh, for example, I made contact with his sword, that I'm under complete hypnosis, my senses are messed up. Aizen's the kind of person, and this happens in Bleach fashion, that he's the kind of person to explain his abilities to his opponent. And you can't even deny it, this happens in Bleach all the time. It's like, this is my Zanpakuto, this is Kyoka Suigetsu, he has complete hypnosis. From so long as you look at my Zanpakuto, I have you under complete hypnosis. Aizen doesn't know how many Limbo clones there are. At this point in time, he's probably only interacted with one of them. With that beared in mind, the Limbo clones don't share consciousness with Madara, but they essentially are Madara in the sense that, okay, they have his skills, they have his powers, and they have his abilities. They are essentially other Madaras. That's what they are. So upon hearing this now, the other 3 Limbo clones are going to fight Aizen in a way that they won't be affected by the Kyoka Suigetsu. So say for example it works like this. One of the Limbo clones has been ensnared in Kyoka Suigetsu, as well as the main body of Madara Uchiha. Limbo clone number 2 takes Madara Uchiha away. Limbo clone 3 takes away the other Limbo, the first Limbo clone. Now you have 1 Limbo clone left. What does that Limbo clone do? As Sosuke Aizen goes to chase down the main body of Madara Uchiha, he summons down meteorites. Now, remember I told you about in the very beginning about destructive capacity versus defensive capabilities. Now, meteorites can vary in sizes. They can vary in sizes from the size of mountains to the size of cities, to the size of continents, to the size of planets. They are essentially just giant rocks. Now, take for example if it was a city-wide one. He could summon multiple ones of these, and these would fall down and crush Madara. Not Madara, I mean Sosuke Aizen. With these crushing Sosuke Aizen, it's not just crushing, oh, you know, like, you know, 1 or 2 organs he can regenerate from it. It's completely crushing his entire body. Sosuke Aizen can't take something of that much, can't take that much damage when you compare it to the size of a meteorite. Okay, and the reason I say that is this, is that when Sosuke Aizen was attacked by Mugetsu Ichigo, Mugetsu, the final Getsu Getensho, we don't know exactly how much destructive, how much the destructive force of that attack was, but we do know that it wasn't enough to bust a planet, or to bust a continent, or probably even to bust an entire city. All we know is that it left a massive slit in the middle in the landscape that was quite deep. How deep we don't know. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go measuring panels and try to give you some crap BS estimate compared to the size of the character. This isn't a screw attack. I don't make up any kind of BS. Alright, now with all that bared in mind, Madara Aizen can't see the last Limbo clone. This Limbo clone can keep summoning meteorites. It's going to completely pound him and crush him into oblivion. The winner, at the end of the day, is Madara Uchiha by a very slim hair. Now, a lot of you are going to disagree with me, a lot of you are going to hate me, a lot of you are going to unsub from me, a lot of you are going to agree with me, a lot of you are going to dislike. It's just the way it goes. When you do anime crossover battles, you can't please everybody. And I hope you guys have understood my reason and understood my logic behind the decisions that I made. I hope you guys can respect my opinion. And if you do disagree, don't send me like, you know, a long wall of text, because that's just ridiculous. Make a video response. But I'm going to warn you of this. If you make a video response, please come to me with facts and, you know, just come correct. Because if you come to me with anything other than facts, anything other than logical reasoning, I will bury you. That's the bottom line, if you want to have a debate with me about that. But if you bring to me like facts and you explain to me like why you believe that I'm wrong, I can see with that. And I respect that opinion and I'll take it on board. Because at the end of the day, I'm not an arrogant person. and I don't want you guys to be disrespectful or arrogant towards me. I know a lot of you guys are, you know, very passionate anime fans, but don't let your passion come across in a rude way. So I'd like you guys to leave your respectful thoughts, comments and concerns in the comment section below. Hit me up in a personal message, send me a video response in a respectful manner, and I'll catch you guys next time. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and this crossover battle from me, your boy Shin Megami X, aka Captain X, your leader of Squad X and your president of Squad 00. I'm signing out. And as all my people, take care and peace. And remember, as I always say, keep it 99+1. I'm out.